Most people have experienced a significant change in their life's routine this past month. Some have lost their job, some have lost a friend or a loved one, some got stuck at home with children, some are just worrying about not getting sick. Some feel betrayed by those in leadership positions. But one thing all of us have in common is that we are living in unprecedented times. How can we deal better with all the feelings we are experiencing? Martin Reinsell, who goes by Marty, is a licensed mental health professional in the state of Washington. Based in Seattle, Marty has worked for over a quarter century in some of the most unique and challenging mental health and behavioral health settings in Western Washington. Marty's here today to talk to us about what we can do to manage the stress and anxiety brought into our lives by the COVID-19 crisis. Hi, Marty. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Robert. Thank you for having me.
So, how are you doing? How has your routine changed?
Thank you for asking me. Life is okay in the sense that I am physically okay and my loved ones are physically okay. But this is definitely a very, very difficult time. Every day, at least for a number of weeks, it seemed like there would be something new and challenging and unpredictable. And I feel like things are settling, but it's still very exhausting emotionally. How about you, Robert? How are you doing?
Well, a few weeks ago, I was really frustrated that I needed a haircut really bad, and I learned I can do it myself. So I've been cutting my own hair.
I think we're
But
both in that same space. So yeah, I
so
understand.
there was a hurdle I had to get over, but kind of lonely. It's hard to get people to respond to you. Sometimes they just don't want to get on a phone. It's just kind of irritating.
Yeah,
But
no, it's a really stressful time for everyone.
mhm.
And thank you again for having me here. Part of this discussion is really to help everybody understand the normalization of through things being so abnormal, that we are all experiencing some sort of disruption. Obviously, some of us have friends, families, maybe even ourselves that we're experiencing symptoms. And that immediate medical issue is obviously the highest priority. But there's also a lot of secondary impacts. There is all the financial impacts, all of the social impacts, all of the psychological stress. As a mental health professional, I've dealt with a lot of post traumatic stress for people, but I can tell you that while going through COVID, it's really been people are experiencing the trauma in the moment, and there's also a lot of people experiencing kind of a pre-traumatic stress where they're anticipating what might happen, and that creates so much fear, confusion, anxiety, and doubt, and it can really be overwhelming, and it can be really isolating as well. So anything that we can do to talk about things and share in this together to remind us that we're not alone for this is really important.
Do most of us like the predictability of things?
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting because I have this conversation all the time in normal times that, like, sure, all of us want spontaneity, but that said, we want predictability and consistency too. If somebody were to hide your toothbrush and at the end of the night when you're really tired, you want to just brush your teeth, that's a sort of unpredictability you don't want. Well, magnify that times 10, 100, 1,000, or 10,000. And that's really what people are experiencing now. And I think a lot of the areas of unpredictability are so new for folks that it is incredibly destabilizing. And so anything that we can do to maintain our normalcy is really going to be important. I know for us as a family, I'm a parent. I'm doing homeschooling right now. My daughter is reading, and it's really important for us to maintain consistency and predictability. And three things that we strive for as a family that I also recommend as a clinician too are really thinking about how we can have consistency around things like food and meals, what we can do around our daily routine. Specifically, the two big ones that are a subset are hygiene issues and sleep routine, and anything that we can do to maintain a normal sleep pattern, going to bed about the same time, waking up around the same time is really important. And again, normal hygiene, it's really great that she's brushing her teeth at her normal times and that we're eating in the ways that we normally do prior to this whole pandemic. And little things make a difference. You know, I like to give the example of me when I was a single man. I was likely to eat a meal anywhere, in a chair, on a couch, wherever. And as a family man, I'm finding it's really nice to have meals at tables in general, and now especially. And again, not just for me, but for the sake of my daughter, really having that consistency and predictability around when we eat, where we eat, and what we're eating is really important.
Well, some of that might apply to this next question, but some parents are having to juggle work, kids, and housework while having less options for leisure. How can they manage this stressful situation?
It's such an important question. So many people I've been talking with professionally and personally, you know, just again, my friends, my neighbors, people in my community. I think the first thing for all of us is mental. And that would be to do what we can to let go of our normal expectations, specifically around productivity. No one is productive in the ways that they were 2 to 3 months ago. And when we are taking on anything new, there is an adjustment, and there's a curve, a learning curve, an adjustment curve that goes with that. And when you are thrown into such huge disarray on a daily basis, and again, relative to unpredictability of what might happen, it's really important that we do what we can to recalibrate our expectations. So I'd say for parents to let go of our sense of perfection, of what that means in terms of parenting. I know for me, my screen time for my daughter is up. That's one of the compromises that we're making. And also being okay with not quite seeing necessarily the progress that you would expect to see in a linear way whenever things are going normal. And that if anything, you're going to see kind of some ups and downs. And that for us, there are times whenever I feel like, oh yeah, I'm ready to tackle those work emails, phone calls, follow-ups, etc. And there's other times where I feel mentally exhausted. And cumulatively, it's about trying to organize myself and then organize others, like my family specifically, in a way that's going to be helpful. And then once I look at like what I've planned, I step it down. If I have maybe 6 things in today's to-do and I get 3 or 4 done, feeling okay with that. There's an important reminder for us right now to see what we have, to see what we're doing, more than trying to look at what we don't have or what we're not able to do. And I think that that's part of this whole process of healing and help through this very, very difficult time, is really recognizing the gratitude for what we have and what we are able to do more than what we're not.
You just got to be okay with letting some stuff go, huh?
Yeah, and that's really hard for us. Again, I know so many people that are really highly functioning. I mean,
Yeah.
they're leaders in many, many different areas: healthcare, education, in the public sector, private sector, you name it. And pretty much everybody is impacted in this way, that it's expectations for themselves and those around them. Again, whether it's family members, coworkers, the teachers of your students, whatever, of your children, whatever it might be. What do we do to give each other the benefit of the doubt, and very importantly, to give ourselves the benefit of the doubt too?
Yeah. Well, some people may find that they're stuck at home with an abusive parent, partner, guardian. How do they stay safe in this
Yeah,
situation?
that's such an important one. I want to speak generally about that first, and then I want to speak very specifically to Thurston County and the South Sound. So, everything that I have been reading, and again, as a mental health clinician that's been doing this, I'm in my 3rd decade of doing this, that it's not a surprise to many of us that episodes of domestic violence and violence in the home are up at this time, while more people are together, while anxieties are greater, and people's ability to channel it in a more healthy way is not there. And so I'm reading about this essentially on a daily basis, that um, episodes and examples of domestic violence are significantly up in almost every community. And specifically for South Sound, I really want to give a reference. I'm going to look at my other computer screen here, because I really appreciate the Family Support Center of South Sound. Consistently is doing great work, and they're really doing everything that they can to accommodate people because services are different now. The ability to come in is changed. But that said, the Family Support Center of South Sound is still there. I want to read to you. They're providing advocacy, safety planning, and assistance with identifying shelter protection orders and all of the numerous resources that they regularly provide. They're doing it just remotely now. So again, instead of having people come in, they're really encouraging people to call if possible. Their phone number is 360-754-9297. Again, that's 360-754-9297. And they tend to work during a normal work week, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. But please know there are additional resources available as well. And having worked in some extremely acute and intense situations, I'd like to remind people that if there is an imminent risk of harm, to please call 911. We're fortunate in our area to have so many officers that are trained in really, really helpful approaches that are trauma informed, that can de-escalate. For example, the city of Olympia has their excellent crew. Whenever you call 911 and identify that there is a behavioral situation in a home, you might have that crisis response unit, the CRU crew, come and show up and provide support. There are other examples of when we call 911 that we can get help and get support right there, again, for those immediate and imminent risks. So there's a variety of different supports that are available to people. The thing that is the scariest is in domestic violence situations, so much of that violence occurs in the shadows. And anything that we can do to shine a light on it and to get everybody impacted, help and support is really important. And again, I know with isolation being so great right now, anything that we can do to help support people, protect people is really valuable. So reaching out to someone, even if it's maybe not safe for you to make that 911 call, can you reach out to somebody who can help with that? What can you do? I mean, there's some additional resources I like to give on a couple of other fronts as well, but in our current age, we have multiple communication resources, texting, phone calls, internet, email, anything that we can do to help connect with other people, to let them know we can use some support is a great way to get things started.
Okay. On the other side of things, you have people that are living alone. Is it more difficult to keep emotionally healthy when you're living alone? And how can these individuals cope with this
Yeah,
level of social isolation?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, again, this is part of during my professional career, something that I've had conversations with many people, whether they're fellow clinicians or folks getting services, or again, just people in the community. There's a difference between being alone and being isolated. A lot of people really like to be alone, and that's kind of just who they are, who their personality is, and who their style is. But there's a difference between being isolated. And I feel like anybody that's in my direct world, and I have family and friends and neighbors that are more isolated than just alone, it's really important for me to do what I can to reach out to them. And I think anything that we can do to initiate an interaction with somebody else who we know is isolated is really important. I have family members that are at high risk because of age, high risk because of pre-existing conditions. And it's been really important for those of us that kind of create that social safety net for our family members to communicate. And it's not just me, whether it's cousins, sisters, other loved ones, making those connections and kind of keeping some consistency with that. That's really, really valuable. So there's no harm in checking in with people. If they don't want to follow up with us, that's their choice. But I think for all of us, our peace of mind comes from that initiation of checking in with other people.
Do you think this experience will bring us all closer together or split us apart?
Goodness, that's such a difficult question, Robert. You see the
We'll
smile on
find
my
out,
face,
huh?
right? I wish I could give you an easy answer to that. I do a lot of trainings, consultations, discussions around adverse life experiences. And so many people that I have worked with in the past identify that sometimes their greatest strengths have evolved out of adverse experiences, and that our ability to be strong, find the strength of our character and our resilience, our ability to, as I mentioned earlier, show gratitude even when we're going through hard times, can be really, really powerful, and it can bring out some of the best in us and bring us closer together. I have a personal saying where I say that, a lot of times I see the strength of my friendships, not when we're going through great times together, but actually when we're going through hard times together. And I've seen examples where going through hardship has brought me closer with people. And I've also seen examples personally where going through hardship with others has pointed out strains that don't bring us closer together. So that microcosm and those microcosm examples are kind of can be used for the macro right now. How do things move forward? I don't know. Most of us don't know. But again, I invite us all to kind of come back to ourselves. What can help you individually be as strong as possible? I have a couple of questions that I prepare in advance of discussions like this, and I would like to just kind of go over them since you're bringing this up, Robert. One of the questions is, asking us, what am I grateful for? And if we can remind ourselves really on a daily basis what I am thankful and grateful and appreciative for, whether it's our health, whether it's our relationships, whether it's our lack of secondary stresses. Again, perhaps we have good fortune in that we were able to file and get unemployment quickly in our state, which is having less problems than many other states in our union. What are the things that we can identify relative to our appreciation and our gratitude right now? Additionally, the second point is really what helps us stay calm and composed right now? What helps me specifically stay calm in my mind and my body? Again, there's so much that's going on right now, and so much of the tensions when we start thinking about things like, again, what's tomorrow going to bring? What's next month or even next year going to bring? Can be really difficult. And so that which brings us back to ourselves right here and right now. Sometimes for folks, it's prayer or meditation. For other people, it's just kind of some of those basic things that help remind us of what keep us healthy. That's really important. And when we participate in that by ourselves, but when we also participate in talking with other people, it helps us and it helps forge those bonds, which can bring out our better shared strengths moving forward. The last thing before we move on to anything else is, again, just bringing us back to resiliency. If we can identify those strengths and what helped us be strong yesterday or last week going through this, and remind us what keeps us going. And again, allowing ourselves to let go of any sense of perfection or expectation. And that has to do with ourselves and it has to do with others. I think it's really going to be easier to feel stronger together whenever I'm letting go of my judgment of other people, because I know I don't like being judged by others. And so if I'm acting with that approach, it's more likely I'm going to get that back from others. And again, hopefully be stronger with others.
Well, I want to thank you for all these tips you've given us and good advice. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we go?
The last thing is just some resources again. There is many different forms of support out there. And again, in our current world, there's a lot of virtual support. If you have received healthcare counseling, maybe you've been involved in like an AA or NA group before, I encourage you to stay involved. A lot of these forums are moving to Zoom meetings, telehealth, other ways of communicating. For our younger folks that maybe aren't their phone is their main connection, you can text. For example, if you text the number 741-741 and you type in home, you'll be connected to a crisis counselor that will start texting you back. Again, that's just texting in the word home to 741-741. If you want to reach out to somebody right there in Thurston County, please know you can call two numbers. One is more geared towards youth and one is a more general number. So the crisis line there in Thurston County is 360-586-2800. Again, that's 360-586-2800. And if you're a youth and you want to communicate with somebody with specific youth-related issues, you can use those same first six numbers, 360-586, and just the final four of the prefix is 2777. So again, for youth, that's 360-586-2777 to be connected to someone right there in Thurston County. We're not alone, Robert. We are stronger together. We are going to be happier and healthier as we move through this together. And we might have some pretty big insights and realizations as we go through this process. And anything that we can do to make a mental note, to make a written note, to make a typed entry to ourselves or to others is going to help us at this time. So again, thank you for inviting me here to be a part of this message. And if I can help with further messaging, please let me know. Again, it's really important for us to stay connected.
All right, thanks for taking the time to be here.
You got it, Robert. Thank you so much.
So to sum up, try your best to stay connected, have healthy daily routines, and it's okay to lower the expectations you have for yourself. That's all we have for you today. Tune in next time for more updates. Again, if you have any questions or suggestions for something we should cover, send an email to rkam@tcmedia.org. Stay home, stay updated with Thurston Community Media, and stay safe, Thurston County.